Hello and welcome back to another episode of the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast. I am your host, Dr. Harbir Sayan. Thank you so much for taking the time to join me here to learn and to grow. As always, I'm so grateful for you taking the time out of your busy day to join me and my wonderful guest. I'm always trying to bring on amazing guests that are going to help us grow. And today is no exception. I have the amazing, if you don't know him already, you will realize he is the amazing Pierre Bertrand. Pierre is currently the CEO of Neurolens, and we're going to dive into Neurolens and how amazing that technology is. Previously, president of Vision Associates, president of Essilor Canada. He's had well over a decade of experience in the eye care industry and over 2 decades in the healthcare industry overall. He is recently a newly crowned American citizen, so congratulations. Although I will not forget the fact that you are Canadian at heart, Pierre.
Always.
Welcome to the podcast, man. I'm so happy to have you here.
Thanks, Harbir. It's great to be on.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been a long time coming, as we were talking about. We spoke, first time we spoke kind of video chat it's got to be over a year ago, I think.
Absolutely.
And we were talking about how we might put this together. So I'm really glad to be here. Maybe right off the top, I'll kind of line this up. We are going to be doing a series, and I want to thank you, Pierre. I want to thank Neurolens for supporting the podcast, not just bringing your own personal talent and insight onto the podcast, but supporting it over a series of 3 episodes that we're going to do together in the next 6 to 9 months. And we'll kind of touch different topics. But I wanted to start with you because one of my favorite topics to discuss is entrepreneurship. And I really look at you as an entrepreneur and a leader in the industry. So I want to get into first who you are and what you do, and then we'll kind of dive into those other topics as well. So why don't you give us your version of your introduction?
Sure. I'm a humble Canadian, born and raised in Montreal. One of the few French Canadians you'll find that can barely skate backwards. And
really?
So, oh yeah,
that's terrible.
Yeah. Now I will say, Stéphane Arcan, who leads our Canadian operation, world-class hockey player. Really? I am not one of them. Oh yeah, amazing. Well, and golfer.
Can we take a second to give Stéphane a shout out too? Hey, Stéphane, I love that guy, and I've been able to spend a lot of time with him recently. So, and he's been instrumental in helping us put this together. So I'm going to have to talk to him about hockey and his career and his skill level.
Yeah, he's just an extraordinary person. And I do think that, along the path of my career, I've been so blessed to be surrounded by people more talented, intelligent, driven, passionate than I am. And our team in Canada is fantastic. And, I'd say all 170 of us across Neurolens. Yeah, 170. So amazing. I think back now, almost 4 years ago, when I joined Neurolens, there were 17 of us.
That's crazy.
Yeah, we could fit
10. That's literally 10xing right there.
Yeah, 10x in 4 years.
That's crazy.
It has been. You want to talk about startup life? People you read about startups, you watch movies about startups. Mm-hmm. It looks so sexy and fun, and it's all of those things, and it's the hardest thing you'll ever do. It feels like you're building the plane as you're flying it every day, and but it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done because
that's incredible.
It's we'll get into the Neurolens thing, but for me, it's always been about making a difference. My purpose has always been, can I help as many people as I can? That's my philosophy in leadership. That's my philosophy in life. And that's how I've approached my career. So, I spent time at Pfizer. I joined Pfizer because of the life-changing medicines and the commitment to science. Mm-hmm. And what a great career there. And then out of the blue one day, got a call from this small French company you may have heard of called Essilor. And, at the time...
Are they in Eyecare? I feel like they've I'm just kidding.
Yeah, they've got small products. But, and I still remember the call because, they said, we're this small French company. And
did they actually use those words?
They did.
Even if they said it, even if that was 10 years ago, that's It's not really
I think
not
what
accurate.
I loved about the DNA of the Essilor I joined was this scrappy entrepreneurial spirit, and I aspire to be able to hold that, because if you've got that passionate, fiery, scrappy core at the heart of your company, it doesn't matter if there's 17 of you, 170 of you, or 70,000 of you, like Essilor was a few years ago, and now well above 100,000 in the
That's
combined
crazy.
company. If you can maintain that, you can achieve anything,
Hmm.
right? But yeah, I mean, so their pitch was our core customer is the independent optometrist, and we want to create consumer brands to defend them against the encroachment of online and retail. But really, our mission is to eradicate poor vision around the world in 20 years. And I thought, wow, I want to be a part of that. That is
Hmm.
an amazing mission, and a great company. I got to see it firsthand in India, in Haiti. What an amazing company, and they
Mm.
truly are making great things happen. And then along the way, just like you and I first got to get introduced, I'm going to Vision Expo East in 2019 and in New York City. And the week before, I get a LinkedIn note from a guy I'd never heard about called Davis Corley,
Mm.
from a company I'd never heard of called Neurolens. And he says, "Hey, do you have 15 minutes?" And I said, "Sure." I'm always up for meeting new people.
Yeah.
And that 15 minutes turned into over an hour.
Mm.
And what got me so charged up was this premise, that we all knew, right? The industry for the past 5 years had all been focused around digital vision syndrome, digital eye strain, right?
Yeah.
We knew that 2/3 of people around the world were struggling. You talk about disruption. In the last 20 years, the launch of the iPhone and the presence of digital technology now in our lives
Yeah.
has changed how we use our visual system, right? Faster than any other period in the history of man, except for the Industrial Revolution, right? And so, what did the industry do? We all tried to figure out how to help people. And I love the industry for it. And so, I spent 5 years launching, blue light products,
Hmm.
anti fatigue lenses. And when I met with Neurolens, they said, we think that the issue is not blue light or digital devices. It's actually the uncomfortable posture that we're asking our eyes to sit in
Hmm.
because of the way we live our lives today. And that misalignment is what needs to be corrected, not the amount of blue light. And I thought, if that's true, there's $100 billion market that needs to transform. And
Yeah.
I could be a part of helping people not only see better, but truly feel better. It took about 6 months to get there. But I finally jumped on board, and, it's been such a wild ride.
That's
So,
amazing.
yeah,
Yeah, that's amazing. See, these are the types of stories I love to hear. The journeys I love to hear is like it starts from, and you could have easily have missed that LinkedIn note or ignored it, or you got too busy at Vision Expo,
yeah,
because it's easy to do that. I can tell you from my own experience, or you just felt comfortable enough in your current position that going to a startup didn't seem too appealing to you. There's all these things that could have happened,
that's
but
right.
you made the decisions, the choices along the way that led you here. It's really, really cool to hear that. You're welcome to share as little or as much as you are
Yeah.
comfortable. But was there a discussion about, like, well, why doesn't Essilor just buy a Neurolens and let's just take it from there? Because that seems like the more likely conversation in that setting to me.
It's funny. One of the questions that comes up often is, as we've grown, right? We've grown, you know, the company almost 10x in 4 years. There is no faster growing category, no larger unmet need in this industry than what we're addressing. And we've got patents that will allow us to be the ones that can grow this through independent optometry for years to come. So the natural thing is, okay, when's Essilor going to buy you? When's somebody else going to buy you, right? And I really believe that this opportunity is so great that it will take somebody focused, doggedly focused, unwaveringly focused on growing this to achieve its potential. Essilor is a great company, but I look at, for example, transitions, right? The beauty of transitions, which arguably is the largest, most successful consumer brand in this industry. How did they build it? They built it by being agnostic, doggedly focused on what they brought to the consumer, and just telling that story in a very single-minded way. And so, yeah, we talk about that all the time with customers, with industry. We just raised $67 million. Wow. There was 303 deals last year, and last year was a bit of a rocky market to be raising money in.
That's putting it lightly.
Yeah. So little Neurolens was the number 3 medtech raise in the entire industry last year.
Incredible.
And so the reason we raised that is for 2 reasons, right? From the investor perspective, they saw this $15 billion opportunity. They saw what we'd been able to do as a small, scrappy, nimble startup.
Yeah.
And from our perspective, we're confident that we've just scratched the surface, right? We're just getting started. So we want to keep building this for years to come, and we got the fuel to do it.
That's exciting. Very exciting. That's awesome. Yeah, I know that there's, last year was a crazy year in all sorts of ways as far as financially speaking, but challenges with getting investments and banks having issues and so on. And I know Neurolenses has their fair share of things that they'd had to deal with. And so it's pretty amazing that you guys have continued to grow at this rate. It's very exciting. So why don't we talk to our audience a little bit about what exactly Neurolens is?
Sure.
Again, I'm going to kind of line this up for you to kind of approach it however you'd like, but obviously talk a little bit about the technology. We don't have to get too nitty gritty because we're going to have other guests coming on to tell us a lot more detailed. But tell us a little bit about the technology. How did it get started? Where are we now? And ultimately, what's the mission? I think you've already shared a little bit about that.
Yeah, I oftentimes say we're a new company addressing a really old problem. And what I mean about that is, asthenopia has been around for over 100 years, right? Jewelry workers and textile workers 100 years ago had asthenopia, right? And what is that? That's digital eye strain before digital devices ever existed, right? It was because they're working up close all day long and their visual system couldn't compensate. And so they had the same symptoms we described digital vision syndrome: headaches, dry, tired eyes, neck pain. And so what I love about this is that the name has changed over the years, but the issue is not the digital devices. It's what we ask our eyes to do. It's just become so much more prevalent. It's no longer a niche. Last year, the Vision Council did a very large consumer study, and they saw that because of the pandemic and the way their lifestyles changed even more in the last couple of years, now 4 out of 5 consumers are dealing with these issues. And so the need has been around for a long time. We've just brought a solution, right? And so the solution needed 2 things. One was, how do we measure that misalignment, right? And what we see, we've measured now over 1 million patients.
Yeah, by the way, congratulations. That's incredible.
Thank you.
What a huge milestone. Wow.
You know what's crazy about that number, Harbor, is last year at this time, we had measured 400,000 in the history of the company. So it took us 10 years to get to 400,000. And we did 600,000 in the next 12 months. So that is an exponential curve.
Yeah.
So we're just going to keep doing this, right? And that's what's really exciting. But those 1 million patients give us 10,000 data points each. And what we can see is
that's,
you think about
10 billion for anybody who's doing the math.
Correct. Thank you. I love to geek out on this stuff, so I try not to throw too many data points, but we've got more insights on human visual systems, I would argue, than almost anybody else. And what we see is, most people need, 0.6 base in, 0.8 base in, small amounts, but almost everybody, 92% of those 1 million plus, need more at near than they do in the distance. And so that's been the challenge historically, is how do you measure 0.6, 0.4, 0.2?
Yeah.
And then how do you dispense the right amount of prism from distance to near, right? And so we've actually solved for both of those things by developing our Neurolens measurement device that in less than 2 minutes, a tech can measure to 1/100th of a diopter. Wow. And then we've developed Neurolenses that have contoured prism, right? And, when I'm at a cocktail party or hanging out with neighbors and they ask me what I do, I tell them that we've invented a therapeutic system that can help in reducing symptoms of digital eye strain. And when I describe digital eye strain, every single person either personally has it, or they know somebody that does. Yeah. And that's the opportunity for independent optometry. So that's Neurolens in a nutshell. And it's simple, but man, I have never in this industry on a daily basis had the opportunity to receive unsolicited letters, notes, texts from patients. And that's what makes this so great, is that we're not selling eyeglasses. We're truly impacting lives. I had one a few months ago, this elderly couple that they hadn't left their county in 40 years. Oh, wow. Because the wife got so car sick that they couldn't go anywhere. And so we measured her. And one of the symptoms that actually does really, really well with Neurolens is this motion sickness, either motion sickness in the car. Yeah. And the reason for it, if you think about it, is how dynamic you've got to use your visual system, right? And having to adjust to that. And so, we get nearly 90% relief of that symptom through Neurolens. Wow. And this is why I love this product, because the doctor was sharing how the couple came back and they hugged the doctor. That's awesome. They said, you can't realize what we just did. They said, we just took a week-long road trip to Florida.
Oh, that's awesome.
And my wife drove us back.
Oh, that's amazing.
You've given us freedom. And so, you hear all of the, extreme stories, but to me, that's a life-changing story too. And we get those every day. So it's a blast.
To me, that sounds like one of the more, extreme's not the word, but like one of the more significant stories. But you're telling me that's like a day in, day out story. That's not one of those like, there's more significant than that. That's pretty crazy. Because to me, that sounds like, wow, that's a story I would tell all my friends and family, but you're getting that daily, essentially. That's
absolutely cool. Now, I will tell you the flip side of it. What keeps me up at night is the thousands or probably millions of patients that go through our practices each and every day, either not mentioning this symptom because they don't think you can help them,
Mm-hmm.
or they do bring it up and you just figure it's something else. So that's where I get excited about, we've got now over 1,000 sites that are
Amazing.
dispensing Neurolens.
Amazing.
And the doctors and the staff love it because they say it's the first time that we get feedback. Most of the time you come in for your annual eye exam, you dispense them glasses, they leave. If everything's fine, you never hear from them again. But
Yeah.
Neurolenses, they come back and they
Yeah.
share and they bring friends. And so it's
Awesome.
fun. It's fun to be a something different.
What's up, guys? I just wanted to take a minute to thank our partner for this episode, Neurolens. According to a 2022 study by the Vision Council regarding digital habits, 80% of patients are now experiencing the symptoms of eye misalignment. Symptoms like headache, neck pain, motion sickness, and even dry eye sensation. These symptoms can be incredibly disruptive to our patients as they learn, work, and live their lives. And even small misalignments can have a big impact. Fortunately, relief is in sight with Neurolens. The Neurolens process is simple and easy to integrate into any practice. The NMD2 measures misalignment to 0.01 diopters, and Neurolenses with contoured prisms provide symptom relief to 93% of wearers. Neurolens is a new standard of care providing dramatic patient outcomes and practice success. To learn more, visit neurolens.com or speak to your local Neurolens rep. And now back to our episode. That's amazing. Absolutely. It is different. Sometimes there's products that come out or services that come out where we don't, it's one of those, we didn't realize we needed this, but this is one of those, we did need it. We just didn't know how to approach it. And it's pretty cool that, that Neurolens has been able to create this device to provide the measurement, but then also the other challenge is to provide what you need on the other side. You need the lenses to match those measurements, which is not any kind of easy feat. So that's very, very cool. Just a personal, I guess, question, or maybe one that others may be wondering, is there an age limit or range? Like, can you do kids with the Neurolens? How old would you say is like the youngest?
Yeah, we've done 6-year-olds all the way up to 80-year-olds. If they're able to focus through our 2-minute test, that's really the decision, right?
Follow the submarine, basically. Yeah,
you got it. And you've done it at Vision Expo, so I mean, it's comfortable, it's fast, it's really immersive. The good news about the device is that we have an MQI score. So if the measurement quality is not good because the patient's distracted, or maybe they're suppressing, or there's a 1,000 other reasons, but it'll tell you, don't trust our reading.
I got you.
Yeah.
Understandable. So that's good to have.
That's where you can get confidence. Yeah.
Excellent. All right. Well, that's really good to know, and really powerful stories, Pierre. It's really cool. Again, the fact that those kinds of stories you're hearing daily, and it's, you said 1,000 devices, which is really an amazing accomplishment, but at the same time, not that many, right? No. Like, and I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that like you're getting that many positive stories from 1,000 devices. Like imagine it's 10,000 or 100,000. Those numbers are going to grow exponentially. Like, the number of eyes that you've tested. So that's really, really cool. And I'm excited to hear more and more of those. But definitely the people, the colleagues I know who have it speak very highly of it. So, definitely going to be a game changer in the industry if it hasn't become already. And in fact, the next question I had for you, and you already touched on this, was about disruption and game changer type technologies. Do you consider as Neurolens a disruptive technology? And what other forms of disruption do you kind of see, or have you seen in Eyecare, recently or coming up?
Yeah, the concept of disruption is a really great one, right? I think when you hear disruption, people's minds go to the negative right away, right? They think about, how digital photography killed the print business, and how artificial intelligence is going to eliminate millions of jobs. And to me, disruption can be just as positive, right? And there's been so much innovation over the years across so many industries that are positive, that change lives for the better. And really, it comes down to not just novelty, right? And I think in this industry, there's a lot of new, and we tend to sometimes adopt new because it's new. And I just think innovation should always be measured through the lens of how big is the unmet need, how well do I believe that me and my staff can present it in a compelling way to the patient, and what do we believe the outcomes are going to be, right? So how satisfied are they going to be with the solution that I offer? And those three things are really important, because if the unmet need isn't that big, it's going to be really hard to be successful.
Right.
If you're unable to present the innovation, you're not going to sell a bunch. And if the solution's mediocre, you'll sell them once and they'll never come back, right?
Yeah.
So,
or they won't refer anyone.
Yeah, exactly.
I use the analogy to dry eye all the time, because that one's kind of been the biggest leap I've made in my career, as a business owner, as far as financial investment, time investment, has been into dry eye over the last few years. And so I use that analogy all the time, and I feel like your 3 points there, the unmet need, or how big is the need, and how well can I present it, and how good are the outcomes, are all very relevant to dry eye. If I'm going to go spend $100,000 on technology or more for dry eye, like, why am I doing it if only a couple of people have it? And, is this technology actually going to give the results I want it to give? And then ultimately, I got to be good at talking to the patient about it in the exam room, and succinctly, effectively showing them why it's a good option for them. And that's, when you wrap it all up, it's a lot to think about. But there are some technologies and some disruptions and innovations that are really easy. And all three of those is easy thumbs up in all three categories, right?
Yeah.
So that's something it's a good way to put it, those 3 points.
Yeah. And that's where I got excited about Neurolens, right? And that's why I joined. That's why I think the 170 people that get up very, very early and end their days really, really late at night at Neurolens, the reason that we're so passionate and driven by purpose is because we're a home run in all three, right?
Yeah.
You think about, 4 out of 5 people are suffering from some level of digital eye strain, right? I look at my 2 daughters, from the minute they wake up to the moment they go to bed, and probably at some points throughout the night, if I look at their Instagram, they're on their phone. Yeah. It is insane. Yeah. Small personal story, but I downloaded Instagram, and the millennials
just
at the office,
recently.
About 4 years ago.
Okay, I thought like just this week or something. I was like, Pierre,
no. It's been a long time, but I have 0 posts on Instagram. The only reason I have Instagram is to communicate with my daughters. Because that little green messenger icon that I thought everybody used, they're like, Dad, nobody uses that. It's not even on my home screen.
It's so true. You know what, Pierre? It's crazy. The younger they get, the different. So, there's Instagram, and I have cousins who are a lot younger than me, and they'll use. I thought Snapchat was like just to send a quick picture of, oh, look where I am, or look at the funny thing my kid did. But they're having like full-on conversations in Snapchat. Oh, yeah. And then there's TikTok, which is just a whole different. Can't even explain to you what happens on that channel. Yeah. But there's always something new coming out. There's another one called Lemonade or something like that. There's all these different things, and talk about innovations and disruptions. There's things that we need to learn to use, and we have to decide which one of these platforms actually makes sense to us. How are we going to use it? What's the benefit of it?
That's right.
I love the story of how you communicate with your kids through Instagram. That's awesome. But going back to your 170 team members that are able to get up early and stay up late, it's probably because they don't have asthenopia, right? They're not dealing with asthenopia daily.
I will tell you, some of the people that have joined us was because they were working in the industry at one of the established companies. Yeah. They went to one of our sites, they got dispensed Neurolens, and they were like, whoa, this is the real deal.
I know one of them at least that has that story, and that's really cool. Yeah. Really compelling story. and just really, really cool. Honestly, so
Yeah,
it's cool to have heard those stories personally. First person from the person themselves who's having that change in their life. So exciting, and I'm excited to kind of tease it. I'm excited to hopefully eventually offer our patients the services. We don't yet, for anybody who's wondering, but definitely on the list.
I'm not quitting until you join the movement.
Well,
So
you know what? It's there. Trust me, it's there. It's coming. We
I
just got a
love it.
few other fires to put out and other things to quickly build, and then we'll be ready.
I
But
get it. I get it.
you've touched on, Pierre, the topic of team building and leadership a couple of times, just kind of through our conversation already. That's really an important piece that I want to talk about. These days, I talk during some of my presentations that I do, I talk about the importance of developing a good culture,
Mm-hmm.
and more important now than it ever has been with the great resignation and all these other things that we've been dealing with post-COVID. Having a strong culture is so, so, so important. I watch you, honestly, and it's so cool how much you talk about leadership. And you mentioned yourself right off the top that you're a humble, a leader, but a humble person. And it's incredible to see you're leading a team of 170 people and crazy like growth that you're going through. I can't even get to my question. It's just like, what are some of the key qualities that you feel you have, or perhaps a strong leader should have, to get through some of the challenging times, but also get people on board so much that they believe in what you're doing and where you're going?
It's a great question, and I've been blessed over the years to have great coaches, great mentors. But really, I think what it comes down to is a few things. I think it starts with setting a purpose, a vision that is compelling and that people align to.
Hmm.
People talk about leadership a lot, and the piece that sometimes they forget about is that that's a two-way street, right? So I can have the most compelling vision and be as passionate as I want. The people on the team need to be just as bought into that, right? And so one of the pieces about leadership, especially when you're building something like we're doing at Neurolens, is you've got to have a really rigorous process to identify and invite people into your movement, right? So in every interview and discussion that I have, I always stress why we're here, what we're trying to accomplish, and how hard it's going to be, right? We're outmanned, we're outgunned, but our mission is so pure. The opportunity is so great. This industry is so passionate about its patients, and the team that we have is so world class that we can't but succeed over time. The only question is, how big is big, right? I truly believe that 20 years from now, and maybe even sooner, we're going to be that fourth dimension of vision. We're going to be in every prescription. Not everybody's going to have contoured prism, but everybody's going to have a contoured prism number. And I'm actually excited about that. So when I'm sitting in an airport restaurant, it won't be everybody talking about how bad their astigmatism is. They're going to talk about something else. So I'm excited about that. And I'm sure you are too.
I love that.
But to go back to leadership, I really do think that there's this balance of setting a vision, right? This idea of a general on the hill that's looking out into the distance and setting a course, but then being able to come down from the hill and get on the front lines with their teams, right? So the team, to me, the team's more important than the leader. And the other piece about creating a great culture is you have to embrace the reality that at some point, one person cannot and will not set the culture. The culture starts within every single person on the team, right? And the organization culture is just the amalgamation of that. And so, we get together every 6 months as a team, everybody. I don't care what your title is.
All 170.
Yeah. And we look at our values. Do we believe that our values, A, are we living them? B, are they moving us closer to our vision? And, we've changed our value set over time to make sure that everybody was aligned to them.
Wow.
And then the other piece is our vision still where we're aiming to, and is it still as compelling and pure as we want it to be? So that's not Pierre setting that. That's every single employee at Neurolens sharing with me what they believe the most vital things we should be working on, what values drive us, and what vision inspires them. And that's a unique thing, and it's so powerful.
That's amazing. So then do you, does each person on the team kind of have a check-in at some point, like to make sure they're still aligned? Like you have the one big thing at 6 months, but what about in between? Is there anything going on in between?
Yeah, great question. Great question. So that we run what are called roadmaps. Okay. And every person and their boss has a roadmap. It's a single 1-page document. It's got our vision and values. It's got our organizational vitals, the most critical things that are occurring in the organization. And if you get called upon to work on those, we as an organization agree that everything gets put to the side and that becomes your priority. And then you'll have your individual vitals. And that's a living document. So as I meet with you every week and we sit down, the expectation is, as we're talking, if I go, hey, I've noticed that we're talking about stuff that's not on your roadmap. Are these still the most important things in terms of your personal contribution? And if they aren't, let's have a conversation about what we remove. And it's a great exercise because it keeps us focused on the vital few things that are going to make us succeed. The greatest enemy of great is distraction, right? And it's so easy to just keep piling on one more thing, one more thing, one more thing. And so this concept of having this living document, this contract really between the two of us is a really powerful thing.
That's amazing. That's a really cool idea. And definitely I know someone who's easily distracted and piles too many things on their plate. Personal experience talking here. That's awesome, Pierre. I could ask you so many more questions on culture and leadership and all of that, because I think that's such an important topic. Maybe we'll have you back on to just talk about that only.
Yeah.
But I want to kind of move a little closer to wrapping up here the conversation. And before we do, I do this once in a while. I have a little rapid fire section here. I have 5 or 6 questions. I'm going to ask you kind of bang, bang. You give me a couple of words to a sentence maybe of an answer, and then we'll just move on to the next one. Okay. So you all ready? I need you to get kind of fired up here, get the juices flowing. Here we go. Okay.
I'm always fired up.
Let's go. No, I get that's true. Here's question number 1. Why are you always fired up?
I don't know. I'm just curious. I think I would put it to that. I'm just a curious person.
Awesome. What impact would you like to have on the eye care industry, leave on the eye care industry?
Have people feel better, not just see better.
Okay. How do you define success?
Growth.
Okay. Never ending in that sense?
Never ending. Never satisfied. And that's personal, professional.
I love it. Habs or stars? You didn't see that one coming.
Sadly, Habs.
That's not sadly. I mean,
at least we've got color pictures of the Stanley Cup, unlike the Leafs. But it's been a long time, man.
Patrick, you could always hang on to Patrick Waugh days. It's fine. You always have those days. That's not that long ago. That was only 30 years ago. It's more recent than the Canucks.
Which is that's true. But you had those great uniforms in the 80s. So
yeah. Well, we're bringing them back. The black,
Ooh,
the skate with the red and yellow. Yeah, that's coming back.
nice.
All right. See, I'm asking you to give short answers, and then I start giving my tangents here. Okay. What's one thing you do every day to keep yourself on track?
Wake up at 4:30.
Wow, 4:30. Has anyone ever told you look like Jean-Claude Van Damme?
Only liars.
I bet you Jean-Claude Van Damme's been told that he looks like Pierre Bertrand.
Oh man, poor guy.
I'm gonna take that as a no then.
I've gotten a lot, and flattery will get you everywhere.
All right, the next question was going to be, can you do the splits like Jean-Claude Van Damme? But then we won't go there. All right.
No.
One or two book recommendations that you'd like to share?
One of the great ones is David Goggins. If you've never read a David Goggins book, his latest one's never finished. Story of we all live at about 30% of our true potential, and we're only limited by our minds. His personal story is incredible. Mm-hmm. And then the other one would be the dichotomy of leadership, and Jocko Willink.
Willink, yeah. He's got the other. I've read the other one, the leadership,
extreme ownership.
Extreme ownership. Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah,
I bring that one up.
So I'll tell you, this is one of the things that I love about Jocko Willink. And okay, this 2-word answer is turning into a sentence. So we both have the same problem.
Yes.
So Extreme Ownership was the first book he wrote, right? It's pretty black and white, really great book. And as he was consulting over the next 6 to 12 months, he realized, gosh, it's not as cut and dry as I thought. There's a lot of gray. And so he wrote the dichotomy of leadership because he realized it's unfair. What I've written is not true. And I've got to give some of that gray area and how to lead through that. And I love the candor and the demonstration of ownership in writing that second book.
Oh, interesting. I'll have to read that because that's something actually similar in a sense, not quite to the degree of the Jocko Willink, but like we were talking before we came online, I was saying how I don't edit things out so much. I'm good with just kind of like showing the way it is. And I don't want people to think that it's some polished and perfect product because I want people to understand that the importance of authenticity and candor, like you're saying, and the kind of owning that, like I screw up sometimes. And I think that's really cool for someone at that level to showcase that. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, okay, those are the rapid fire questions for now, because otherwise they're going to turn into the longer and longer answers the further we go. I do still have 2 more questions for you, but before we get into those, could you share with us, where could people connect with you or learn more about Neurolens?
Yeah, neurolens.com, very simple.
Or .ca for the Canadians out there.
Neurolens.ca. I've got a great team. We're almost everywhere now. If you don't know your Neurolens rep, you can send me a note and I'll connect you to the right person, Pierre at neurolens.com. That's one of the benefits of being a startup is we don't need last names,
That's true. Yeah, because if you were at Essilor, it'd be like Pierre B123, right? That's because there's probably 3 other Pierre Bs.
That's the other benefit of living in Texas too. Because if I was in Montreal, there'd probably be a bunch of Pierres already too. But and then from a social media perspective, I don't do Facebook. I don't do Instagram other than to get my daughters to come down for dinner. And so LinkedIn is probably the best place. And it's one of the beautiful things about LinkedIn is you could send a note to Elon Musk and hear back from him. So if anybody's ever curious and wants to reach out and they forget my email address, send me a note on LinkedIn. I'm so passionate about the opportunity that we have together as an industry to create value and to change lives that I don't want anybody to hesitate. I'm never too busy. You asked the question about the secret and I said 4:30 a.m. 4:30 a.m. There's nothing magical about it. It just gives you more hours in your day to make things happen. And those hours of 4:30 to 8 before the rest of the world gets up allows you to get a workout in without disturbing anybody, reading a book, stretching, getting mindful, setting your plan for the day. And so I bring that up to say I don't have hours. I believe in what we're doing so much that 24/7, reach
That's
out.
awesome.
Let's change lives together.
Amazing. I love that. Amazing. Okay. So 4:30 for you is 2:30 for me. So I'm going to be sleeping at that time, but I'll catch you a little later in the morning.
There you go.
All right, Pierre, thanks for that. And so there's two questions that I ask every single guest at the end of the episode, and I want to quickly pose those to you here. And number one is, if we could step in a time machine and go back to a point in your life that was challenging, you're welcome to share the moment if you would like to, but more importantly, what advice would you give to Pierre at that time?
So I was junior or senior in high school, and I had gotten into this mind frame of letting cool and my insecurities distract me from my aspirations. And by that, I mean, my fear of trying really hard and failing kept me from achieving academically and athletically what I thought I could. Right. And it led me down some bad paths. And I call this story the garbage man story because I do think that my father gave me the speech that set me on the right course. And I remember we'd had a blowout argument, and he looked at me and he said, for the first 16 years of your life, I kept telling you about this potential ahead of you, right? The greatness that you could bring, the way that you could elevate our family to a whole other level. And, maybe I was wrong, maybe I've set standards for you that you just don't have the capabilities to achieve. Maybe you should just roll it up, be a garbage man, make good money, flexible schedule. You can work out, you can, read, you can do whatever you choose on your free time. You'll have a decent life. And that challenge that you can't achieve something lit a spark, right? And, it truly made me realize that if you reach for greatness and you fall a little short, you're going to be so much further along. And that's not failure. That's explosive success to everybody else that's looking, right? And so that's been kind of the thing that's driven me all these years. Is so if I could go back, I would say reach for greatness, right? Achieve the impossible. Nothing extraordinary was ever achieved through ordinary effort. And you'll only know the limits of your potential if you stretch beyond what you think is possible.
That's amazing. Amazing. That's amazing insight from your dad to know how to reach you that way is pretty incredible, man. That's hard, from your parent, and I'm a parent, like to know to give, because I would be scared of my kid being like, oh, okay, sure. I'll just do that then, if that's what you said. But he clearly knew how to get to you. That's really cool. Very cool. And the fact that that sticks with you all the way. It reminds me of a book, if you've read it, called Mindset by Carol Dweck. And so she talks about the fixed versus growth mindset. So it sounds like you're kind of in the fixed, and he managed to somehow unlock that for you.
Absolutely.
And it's been growth since then. That's awesome. Very cool. Great story. Thank you. Last question. Everything you've achieved till now, your time with Essilor, everything, the growth at Neurolens, all of that, how much of it would you say is due to luck and how much is due to hard work?
Can I add a third element? Because I think it's 85% a third element. It's the people you choose to surround yourself with is 85% of the winning formula. Right? Okay. If you surround yourself with people that tell you, it's okay, that's too hard. It's all right to take every second Friday off. 20% growth is fine. Oh, this industry will never sell 1,000 pair of eyeglasses. Those types of people, that's what creates a fixed mindset. Um, I've been so lucky in sports to be a mediocre athlete surrounded by people that pushed me, kicked me in the butt, teammates at work that would pick me up, and I would do the same, because we all go through peaks and valleys, but never allowed each other to be mediocre. Awesome. I think that's the key. Now, luck, absolutely. When I joined Pfizer, I was actually looking at two things. The other one was a startup in telecommunications, a router startup that ended up going bankrupt in the dot-com crash. The only reason I chose Pfizer in the end is I had student loans and I didn't have the guts to go over there and risk it. So that's luck. And so grateful that Pfizer was able to give me all these chances to develop.
That's incredible. And
then hard work. It goes back to nothing extraordinary was ever achieved through ordinary effort. You look at the greats, the Michael Jordans, anybody that's ever achieved anything. Talent only gets you so far. Once you reach the pinnacle, everybody's got talent, right? It's what are you willing to sacrifice to achieve the greatness that you seek?
Unbelievable, man. I want to just keep listening to you give these amazing insights. This is incredible, Pierre. Thank you so much. Wow, it's a perfect place to end it. I think, honestly, so much great insight in this whole conversation, whether we're talking about, your journey through Eyecare, Neurolens, talking about leadership, all of these kinds of things. It's been really great. I hope everyone who's listening or watching maybe go back and listen to some of the things that Pierre was sharing in there about the team building and whatnot. I think that's going to be really valuable to all of us. Pierre, any final words of wisdom before we wrap it up?
I just think we're at an interesting crossroads in our industry. And, there are a lot of reasons why you could be pessimistic. I think that we're at the dawn of the next wave of growth in our industry. I think independent optometry has the opportunity to separate, differentiate itself, create a whole new category just for itself, create value, create gains, and create lifelong patience. And that's why I'm here. That's what gets me up out of bed every morning. And that's why I've got the team that I do, because we want to move this industry. We're not selling generic eyewear.
Right.
We're changing lives. So we need you and the rest of the industry to come along with us.
Yeah. Well, I think that's a really important message, because a lot of what we are doing is becoming commoditized, and people are worried. We are worried. My colleagues and my friends and everybody else in the industry are worried that, where are we going to end up a decade from now or whatever it is. But we have opportunities to be specialized and to offer services that are not going to become commoditized. So I think it's important for us to look at those and bring those in. So I 100% agree with you. Thank you for sharing that. And thank you, everybody who's been watching and listening, whether you're on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, wherever you are. If you took any value, there's so much value. Let me stop there. Okay. Take the most valuable thing that you heard, take a screenshot, put it up on Instagram or link it on LinkedIn, or send a text message to your friend and tell them what that valuable thing was, so they can tune in and hear all the amazing things that Pierre shared here today. Thank you again for watching. Thank you again, Pierre, for being here. This is the 2020 podcast, Canada's #1 optometry podcast, and I will see you in the next episode.
Thanks, Arbir.